rating, even if the story's a little weak in places.
How can I help? The Coven will pay for their atrocities.
I'm gonna have to immediately go find a transmog place to get rid of that nasty looking helmet. How does WoW compare to Lord of the Rings Online these days? Asks Aaron. Which would you say is better? Ooh. You know what? This is a great conversation to have right now. We're gonna spin this out into its own episode here. So we are 2 hours and 50 minutes in. LOTRO versus WoW conversation. This will come out as a YouTube episode. So, Aaron Shockey asks, how does World of Warcraft compare to Lord of the Rings Online these days? Which would you say is better ran? So let's talk for a few minutes, and hope the internet doesn't die as I'm watching it tank because I'm having issues because it's storming here. They're two very different games. So the reality of Lord of the Rings Online is that it's a very old game, and they haven't spent the money to optimize it like World of Warcraft has. So it's never been updated graphically, engine-wise. So they're very much still stuck in 2007 with the way their game plays and runs. So if you can get past the fact that Lord of the Rings Online is an old game and runs like an old game, then you can have great enjoyment in Lord of the Rings Online because it is an extremely faithful adaptation of Middle-earth from the book versions. And it's incredibly fun, and it's a deep, 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 deep game. I still tell people to this day that Lord of the Rings Online is my favorite MMORPG of all time. That being said, it doesn't play like an MMO anymore. It plays like a single-player game, which is great. Most games play like that these days. But it does lack a lot of the modern features that World of Warcraft has. There's no matchmaking system, as an example. There's no level scaling or any of that stuff. It's very much old school in that regards. So, it's lacking quality of life features that make World of Warcraft a more modern game. But that doesn't mean Lord of the Rings Online isn't worth it. It's very much a fun game, but it's super deep in terms of lore, and you have to be able to read walls of text because the quests are huge and epic and long, and it's tens and hundreds of thousands of words of text for you to read through, but it's very well done in the spirit of Tolkien's books. And I highly recommend Lord of the Rings Online to anybody that wants to play it. And I'm not going to cut this out because the quality is going to be shit visually. Anyway, I'm watching my bitrate drop down to like 500, which is not good. World of Warcraft is a much more modern experience. It has matchmaking and flying mounts and level scaling and activities out the wazoo for every type of player. And they've modernized their game, and they've modernized the look, and they've modernized the feel, and they've upgraded their engine, and they've upgraded everything over the years. And from a technical standpoint, World of Warcraft is a much better game. From a cinematic storytelling experience, World of Warcraft is a much better game. Maduro says, don't forget you can also buy the newest WoW expansion and have access to all the game, unlike Lord of the Rings Online. This is also true. Lord of the Rings Online has done a good job of slowly adding more content to packages. As an example, for their 15th anniversary last year, they finally got rid of the paywall for a lot of different features and things. And now the game, the free-to-play version of Lord of the Rings Online, is free to play up to Helm's Deep and level 90, which is, it's like 6 expansions worth of content that you can play for free. But it doesn't include all of the side quests because they have the zones are packaged. So what they do is you get access to all the main quests, but if you want to do side quests, you have to buy them as quest packages. And there's a lot of things that they nickel and dime you for because they have a free-to-play version of the game. But if you love the game, I always just play VIP when I play Lord of the Rings Online because you get everything that way. And if you have a VIP subscription, you don't have to purchase any of the expansions, because if you have VIP, you get access to pretty much everything, with the exception of some of the zone quests. So it just depends. They did do a deal back in the day called a quad pack, where they sold you everything up to the Riders of Rohan expansion, and it was everything up to that expansion included. But since then, they've done, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, Maduros, I think they have done a more recent pack that includes a bunch of stuff in it. But it's still not like World of Warcraft, where you can buy the most recent expansion and get everything up to that included. It's still very much we're going to give you a large portion of content, but we're not going to give it all to you. Matter of fact, I'm going to go look it up right now, because it's going to drive me nuts. LOTRO expansion store. Because I know they were offering a pack a while back, which had a whole bunch of stuff included in it, and I don't remember what it was called. But it's not like for example, the Corsairs of Umbar just launched. Like, that's the most recent expansion. If you buy the Corsairs of Umbar, you don't get anything before that. It's just that expansion. You don't get that expansion plus all the other content. It's just that expansion. So you have to have purchased everything else up to that point. Whereas World of Warcraft, you buy the most recent expansion and boom. Maduro says some of my favorite quests of any time are in Lord of the Rings Online, like the quest for Aragorn to rebuild the sword, which is an awesome level 40 quest, where you go to Anonymous, and that's a cool quest line to rebuild the sword. That's a really cool quest line. But also, like Maduro said, the only complaint with LOTRO is that their monetization, because it is a free-to-play game, they do monetize it very weirdly. Some players will complain that it's nickel and diming, but I always say, hey, if you love Lord of the Rings Online, you should be willing to support no matter what the monetization method is. The Dunedain quest lines in that whole series in between Riders of Rohan and Isengard, where you're just working with the Dunedain in the forest, and you're taking out Saruman's forces and orcs and everything else. That is a great storyline. I had the most fun in Rohan, working with Eomer and Eowyn, and watching the Ents come, and getting to meet Theoden. I think Riders of Rohan has probably been my favorite time in Lord of the Rings Online. So I would say if you love Middle Earth and you love the books, Lord of the Rings Online is still a very good game. It's absolutely worth playing, even in 2023. But you do have to face the fact that it's a 15-year-old game, and unlike World of Warcraft, it has not modernized over the years. So it looks and feels its age. And also, Standing Stone Games, for all the good they've done, they've not done a good job with their server when they moved their server farm a few years back, they have some serious optimization issues. So there's constant hitching in the game, and there's some performance stuff that can drive some people batty, but it's still worth playing, I think, if you love Middle Earth and you love good fun. I could swear supporter packs. I'm looking at the LOTRO store right now, because I could swear they had something. Oh yeah, and it has housing. He's not wrong. I just did a tour of the River Hobbit housing about a month ago with Lestalia. She brought me into her house and showed me the River Hobbit housing, which is the most recent. There are definitely. I'm trying to find it. They have previous expansions listed here on their store, and I could swear they had one here. I'm not finding it now. Because I remember, like, last year or something, they had an all-in-one package. But I'm not seeing them anymore now, so I don't know if they still have it or not. So yeah, that's the thing with Lord of the Rings Online, is you do have to get the individual expansion packs. But the cool thing about it is it's free to play up to Helm's Deep and level 90. So, I mean, that's honestly, if you're playing every single day, that's probably 6 months worth of content just right there. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's the answer. But to maybe answer your question even fuller, because I don't think I gave you an exact answer. How does it compare? Would you say it's better ran? I would say, World of Warcraft is much more of a streamlined, modern um, game that has all sorts of different activities and the matchmaking, the scaling, the raids, the storylines, the graphics, and everything else. Lord of the Rings Online is stuck. Like it feels like an old game, whereas World of Warcraft feels like it just came out yesterday with the way the graphics are and everything else. So, that's those are some caveats to both. And yeah, housing, because Lord of the Rings Online has housing, which is awesome. The housing is great. And there's like basic housing and premium housing, and it's pretty awesome. How did I get turned into a witch? Somebody turned me into a witch.
Glory, word is given. Let us ride to Corlane.
Champion, if I may have a word with you, I would like your assistance.
So if you come back and work with her, this is part of the working with the Orders of Embers. Excuse me.